What's this? Vintage headphones? You bet they are. These are the Sennheiser HD420. They came out back in 1977 and would be in production by Sennheiser until 1982. Now, as you folks probably know or you don't know about me, I love headphones. I love sound gear. I love to get the best quality audio possible from all my devices. But buying a pair of vintage headphones doesn't make sense in that regard because not only are these older with older drivers and of course the on-ear headphones, as you can see by the pads here, but they're from the 80s. Of course, that means the headphones are going to be hard to drive. They're not going to use the 3.5 standard. As you can see, this one's been adapted to use this connector jack over the original 6.3. And vintage headphones are notorious because they're hard to drive. These small headphones are 600 ohm to drive. The Beyerdynamics that I use today on my DT990 Premium only have 32 ohms and they're modern. So should you buy a vintage headphone today? And more specifically, if you do, what should you do to get the best out of it? Let's discuss. Hello and welcome back. Now, I'm sure most of you will not watch this video and that's absolutely fine, but I'm a huge fan of vintage headphones, specifically ones from Sennheiser. Why? I love their design. I love how light they are. I love their open back design, especially on these on-ear models. They're quite comfortable despite the on-ear nature of the headphones. And even though they are hard to drive, because they all use a 6.3mm jack like this one, you can easily use a 3.5mm adapter, plug it in and put it into your more recent devices. Now, as I said before in the intro, what about them makes them so special? Well, back in the day, in the 70s, Sennheiser was well known as a company used by various studios for their audiophile needs. For example, the BBC used to buy the 414s, which are the most popular headphones ever sold by a company, and those two are Sennheisers. They had the big cushy earphones here, and they were extremely simple. It was just a headband, the drivers, obviously the big fluffy earmuffs, and then two stereo jacks here, although they did make mono versions of that headphone as well for audio equipment at the time. And they were not too hard to drive, and there were various models of the 414. You had the original version, the 70s version, the 80s version, the X model, and then the anniversary version that came out back in 1995, which is easy to drive and actually uses a legit 3.5mm headphone jack, but are now extremely rare, and unfortunately they're hard to find. But the 420s, which is this headphone here, they're not so bad. These cost me £70, and this was back 2 years ago when I bought them, and I really like them. I'll put them on my head now. As you can see, very comfortable. The earmuffs aren't too tight. The headband here is nice and supple, even though it's just a simple band here. This bit here does not protrude too much, it's not heavy. And the earmuffs here aren't too tight. You can adjust them like this, make them tighter, make them looser on your ears. And as you can see, they're very low profile. They don't stick out like two deer ears, you know? So for me personally, these headphones not only are nice to use and easy to use, and they're very light on your head, making a comfortable fit for hours on end, but the earmuffs are quite supple. You can replace them. They're quite difficult to replace, mind you, which I may have to do in the near future, but they are replaceable. There's plenty of replaceable earmuffs on eBay because these are so popular and so widespread despite their age. And of course, as I said before, you can adapt it from 6.3 to 3.5, although ideally you want to use the 6.3 jack, which you can see here. And if you can find an amp that can drive these properly, you're going to be in bliss. Now, in terms of modern devices, what's the sound quality like? Because it's all good talking about the vintage headphones and how well they did and what they were used for, but it means nothing if you can't drive them properly on a more modern, capable device. I personally use my MacBook Pro, which has a 300 ohm DAC built in, which obviously is not as good as the 600 ohms that these take, but it's close enough. The volume on these using the MacBook is decent. It is loud enough. It's not going to be blasting your ears out, unfortunately. You'll have to get a dedicated DAC or amp for that. But 300 ohms is actually quite respectable. In terms of the sound signature, I would say they're pretty neutral. They do edge to the warm side slightly of the sound, but it's pretty decent. In terms of the sound stage, obviously these are open back headphones, so the sound will leak, and they are much better than you would give credit for headphones that were made at this time if they were closed back. The sound signature of these headphones, as I said, are warm, but in terms of the sound stage, it is a bit limiting. Obviously, compared to my DT990 headphones from Bear Dynamic, which are obviously more modern, the sound is more closed in. It's sort of around this area, although it's fairly open for what it is, but it's definitely not going to be an amazing sound stage experience. It is going to be quite closed in. And you might think the headphones are going to be quite muffled, being that they're old, but actually these headphones are, I wouldn't say muffled is the word, but it's definitely not as rich in detail as it would be on a modern headphone. The sound quality is very interesting. It has like an old-fashioned sound, but because the MacBook Pro that I have here can drive the headphones quite decently, the sound is it's clear, but it's not clear. It's so hard to explain. Again, muffled might be the right word, but it's not that muffled. It just has an old-fashioned sound. It kind of reminds me of listening to a cassette tape. If you've ever listened to a cassette tape recently, you know, that's what the sound quality sounds like. It sounds like I'm listening to whatever I'm listening to, but with a cassette tape. Obviously, the volume is not loud enough for my MacBook. It is loud, but not so loud that it deafens you. You know, these things would benefit with more drive, and I believe if I could find a device that could drive them more, then the quality of the sound would be extraordinarily good. Not as good as a modern headphone, but for a headphone from the 1980s and late 70s, it would be terrific and quite nice. I have to also tell you that the bass, unfortunately, if you're a bass head, the bass on these are very lean and light. You can sometimes feel it with certain songs, but it's not going to kick and bash your head in, because obviously these were not made with bass in mind. They were made with clarity and studio sound in mind. So unfortunately, if you love bass, although bass can be felt with some songs, it's not going to be kicking you, unlike the DT990 that I have. I guess pleasant experience. If you get these headphones to drive properly, it's a nice, pleasant experience which gets the job done. It's sophisticated, but it's not going to blow your mind. It just won't. The treble is quite soft and dark on these headphones, so you'll have some detail, but it's not detail specific. The treble is quite light, and it makes the headphone listenable for hours on end, but you're not going to have epic detail unlike modern headphones, especially ones that are geared towards flat EQ. Again, these headphones are just quite small. Obviously, they're not going to be the most dynamic headphones you'll ever hear, but when it comes to mid-range, these things shine. If you listen to a female vocal, or you listen to sounds that are mid-range heavy, these headphones shine. They've got a lot of, I don't know why, but they sound intimate. The sound quality of these headphones, although it's not the best, there's a sense of intimacy and old-fashionedness about them that just makes them so magical to listen to. If you want to get a 420, I do recommend the SL model, because the drivers are not only bigger, allowing for more soundstage and sound quality, but they've just got a nice, smooth, silky sound that these ones don't quite have. It's still nice, but it's just not as nice as the SL model of the 420. And I used to have the 420, so I know exactly what they sound like. And these ones were a little bit more harsh, but not so harsh that it's unpleasant and unlistenable. I know I've described the sound in a lot of different ways, folks. I do apologize if what I'm saying doesn't quite make sense, but if you're an audiophile like me and you love listening to different headphones, the sound of these sounds like an old cassette player, but a bit better. That's the best I can tell you. So these headphones right here, do I recommend them? If you like your old-fashioned headphones, then yeah, of course. And you can find these for about £50 today, and they are worth it if you can actually drive them properly. For most mobile devices, you're going to struggle to get good sound out of these, or even the good volume, because these take up so much ohms. Remember, these headphones are 600 ohms, and most old headphones back in the day were that high, even though these are portable in mind because of their small driver size. The comfort of these headphones are nice if you can find one with good earmuffs like these ones. The price is not too expensive, and again, if you've got equipment that can drive these headphones to their best, these are still worth a listen to, even if they are dynamically outclassed by newer headphones. You could get one of these headphones that I always use for about £110, and these headphones are not only worth it, but they are easy to drive. If you get the 32 ohm like this one, or the 80 ohm version, which is also easy to drive, or the 250 ohm I think it is. But still, even though these are dynamically better than what I'm wearing right now, while these are amazing headphones and they are the most comfortable headphones I've worn in my life, and they're very reliable, being made in Germany. These are made in Germany. These are well over 40 to nearly 50 years old now, and they're still fantastic to listen to if you have the right driver and the right DAC to use it with. And even though they are old, they're still quite good in FPS games because of the open soundstage and the open air model of these headphones in mind. They're not closed back, they're open back, and that's what makes them still usable today. But you folks, let me know, what do you think of the old Sennheiser headphones made back in the 70s, 80s and 90s? Would you buy a pair of these particular headphones? And have you ever used them before, like me? Or would you just go with a modern pair of headphones like this pair dynamic here, because they are terrific headphones, I'm not going to lie. But there's just something about these headphones that I really like. Honestly, these are definitely a charming piece of technology that I'm glad that I own today. And luckily, this one's in good condition, so it works as intended. Let me know. Otherwise, folks, I'll see you next time.